Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Easy Conversations, a podcast about having easy conversations. I'm your host, Furkan Dandia. In this week's episode, I sit down with Talha Imtiaz and we talk about communication. Talha is a communication specialist in the UAE, and he touches on and shares some tips that have worked for him when it comes to communicating. Talha and I also touch on communications from a mental health perspective and how to effectively communicate your needs and speak up when you're struggling. I hope you can get a lot out of this episode, and if at the end you can leave a review, I would really appreciate it. Talha, thanks for joining the podcast. I really appreciate it. I know we've been trying to figure something out. So I really appreciate your patience and willingness to do this. Super grateful. And I guess for us, we haven't really spoken in face to face. Well, this isn't face to face, but still in any form in 21 years. So this is quite the catch up for us as well. But I wanted to give you an opportunity first to introduce yourself, where you're located, and then we'll kind of get things started.
Thank you very much, Furkan. Jazakallah. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Man, 21 years later, we are still, I can still recognize you as a Furkan in school. And you can still, I'm sure, recognize me despite our beards, despite our white hair.
Yeah.
So it's very good to catch up. Alhamdulillah. We've been in touch and tech has kept us in touch one way or another.
For sure.
So I'm currently based in Abu Dhabi, and I am marketer, in spirit, a marketer. Designation, I serve two roles. I'm mainly a strategist, so I strategize digital marketing for companies, and I'm also a group account director, so I have a portfolio of clients that I deal with. I have a kind of a elevator pitch for what I do, because strategy is just that kind of a term. So here it goes. When companies, brands, people want to get online, I make sense of that complex world. So, when you decide to go online and take your business online, what kind of website should you have? Do you want to go on a mobile application or not? How do you want to tackle social media? What kind of content do you want to put on social media? How would you get customers? There's so much out there. So I strategize all of that, plan all of that, and then I work with my teams to make that happen. So that is in a nutshell. And I have got a few passion areas within this field. The first one is strategy itself. So communication strategy or marketing strategy. And the other one is content. And what I mean there is, content is subjective. Creativity is subjective, right? Everyone views it in different ways. And so I wanted to try to objectify that process and anchor it in something. And so that's the second area of my, where I'm really studying deep, and I'm trying to do things a bit different, inshallah, hopefully.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And I guess one of the important things you touched on is communication. And I guess people would be wondering, okay, well, like this podcast is centered around mental health. How does all this fit in? And for me, I wanted to speak to you about communication, because it is such an underrated skill, especially in the world we're living in right now, where we're all constantly bombarded with information, whether it's through our phones or just in general through the internet. I think we often forget how crucial communication is, and I feel like most people struggle with it, whether it's even just speaking up and asking for help. So I wanted to kind of, get into a discussion about communication skills with you, and get some ideas from you of the stuff you've been sharing in your platform. So, but at the same time, I want to understand what inspired you to be doing the work you're doing, and like what's brought you here.
Okay, before we get into what's brought me here, a very, very critical thing on communication. Look, something happened yesterday, actually, Yani, of course, not pre-planned. And it just happened. I was teaching my daughter math. She's in the 5th grade. and she had some difficulty understanding fractions. And I was sitting right here on the sofa in front of me, and she just couldn't get it. She couldn't get simplifying a complex fraction into a simple one.
Hmm.
Mixed fraction into a simple one. And I was trying to get her to understand, writing, and she was sitting next to me, and suddenly she started crying, silently crying. And she just said, Baba, what's happening right now? Why am I crying? Okay, now that moment, I mean, later on, I realized that she she doesn't get the why things are happening.
Hmm.
She gets what is supposed to happen. I'm supposed to do this and that, but why am I supposed to multiply this by that? What I'm The point I'm trying to make is that yes, communication is underused, underdeveloped skill generally
Hmm.
in the human race, I would say.
Hmm.
And it's critical. And we, our parents were saying the same things to us. Please keep on asking. Please keep on asking. Please keep on asking. I said the same to my daughter yesterday.
Hmm.
Keep on asking for help until you get it. And
Hmm.
this is so crucial, man. What you just touched on. This is your area, so I'm sure. I mean, things come to you intuitively. Not my area, but every now and then, you just pick on things.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to just touch on that point.
Yeah.
Now, why I got into communication, how I got into communication. Honestly, Furkan, you know that back in school, I was, debating a lot, right? You have speeches, debates
Yeah.
every time. God is my witness, man. I'm telling you, some times ago, a year ago or something, it came. I realized that that was my true talent.
Hmm.
Right? That was something I really loved to do, and but at school, in university, in college, everywhere, till date, it was always taken as an extracurricular activity,
Hmm.
not something that a person, that this is this person's skill set.
Right.
And so let's develop that. And so I guess it just came naturally to me. There was no defined path that I took, but there were a few significant things that happened. Basically, it was marketing that I wanted to do, events that I wanted to do. I realized that when I was in university, a few months into university, when I did the difficult calculus and all, I realized, man, this is not the place for me.
Yeah.
And I just got into extracurricular, started doing a lot of events, started doing a lot of debates and all of that. And so I realized back in university that these things were engineering and computer science and all of that were not my ball game.
Hmm.
And so I started a small events company, took off from there. I did not complete university. I just, like moved on
Yeah.
and started my own little SEO practice. I did a small job
Hmm.
and started my own little SEO practice. Nobody listened to me at that time on things. And so I decided to go solo. And
Hmm.
so for quite some years, I did search engine optimization on my own freelancing until I came to the UAE. That was around 2013. So now it's 7 years that I've been here. So, and over time, look, as I studied marketing and communications, as I studied more, the one area that really came out to me as a challenge was social media, because it's so difficult. And everyone talks to you about, I want to create a viral piece of content. I want to create a viral piece of content.
Hmm.
And that is so difficult to achieve. Yani a viral piece of content is something that touches on very basic human behavior. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you angry, it makes any simple things like that.
Hmm.
But for a brand to cross boundaries, it needs brands to cross boundaries.
Hmm.
And so, to try to find a solution, basically, that's where all of this started. And I got into, hardcore developing communications for brands.
Right.
So that's the story. I don't know if it makes sense.
No, no, that totally does. And I guess one of the things you touched on was dropping out of university, and especially in our culture, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've been touching on as well is like cultural issues, and the following other people's rules. So how was that for you, like being at that stage in your life where you're obviously making a choice that you truly believe in, but you
Mhm.
also know in your head that you're going to be upsetting a lot of people? Did you feel that shame and judgment? And what allowed you to keep moving forward and do the things you're doing today?
Furqan, it came down to my belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Came down to accept my belief system. To this day, my dad still tells me, please, beta, try to get your degree. Wallah, he still tells me to this day. And few less than an hour ago, I was talking to him, and he said, "Did you talk to the virtual university guys right now, like an hour ago?" This is the truth, yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, there was rejection, but honestly, I didn't care about all of that.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were really important. My dad was really important in all
Mm-hmm.
of this, because although he did want me to study and all of that, but he also kind of gave me that belief,
Mm-hmm.
like, yes, I believe in you, go do the things you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So he believed in the potential that his children had, and he gave them that trust, and that built further potential. The trust
Mm-hmm.
of the parent built further potential. Mothers are softies, so mothers were like, they would scold you on one day, but they would let you go the other day.
Yeah.
But my dad's support, I would say, made a lot of difference. And then, man, the rest of the world. People don't come to us in our difficult times and put food on our table.
Of
People don't
course.
come to us in our difficult times and do this and that for us. So it really doesn't matter, what
Mm-hmm.
people think.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and then honestly, Yani, my personal belief system is Islamic, so
Mm-hmm.
towards that, inclined towards that. And if things are, if the big things of life are set, then I don't really need to care. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
do what I want to do
Mm-hmm.
to the best of my ability, and I leave the rest to God,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's simple, but it's profound for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's amazing. And again, thanks for sharing that. I think you made a really good point. Like during our difficult times, we're often alone. And
Often, yeah.
yeah, and those are the times where you really need to decide like what matters is your own choices or what other people think. So no, I appreciate you sharing that. And I guess going back to the side of communication, like, I've read some books like, I don't know if you've read books by Simon Sinek, but he talks about starting with the why, right? And you touched on that with your daughter. I guess in order to get people to buy into your idea or whether your thoughts or whatever you're trying to influence, if you're not starting with the why, that is often the struggle, right? Because how else do you get
True.
people to be interested in what you're saying? Can you share like some of the stuff you do or the practices
Hmm.
you use in that space?
Yes. Um, Whenever we are trying to create communications,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we are we are creating communicate, whatever the objective of that communication is, get people to volunteer, get people to reduce single use plastic, get people to register to university, or get people to get a credit card, whatever that objective might be. When you get into communicating an idea, you really have to ask why it matters. Let me give
Mm-hmm.
you an example. It's a very interesting one, something that we did recently. We wanted there's a very large event that happens in Abu Dhabi, that the company I am working in, that we manage that event. It's called the Abu Dhabi Science Festival. Its purpose is to get
Mm-hmm.
young people, to get interested in STEM subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the aspects of that event is that we invite innovators in the country to come and display their projects. Now, in that season, the whole country, it's basically the UAE Innovation Month. So all the Emirates in the UAE, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, everyone is holding these events. And so those innovators, especially the good ones, they are in demand. I mean, everyone is asking them to come and display their projects in their respective areas. So the
Mm-hmm.
challenge is to get them to be more interested in ours than others, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we asked, when we started building the communication, we asked, I don't remember the name of that book, but maybe it was Simon Sinek's or somebody else's, where if you want to get to a core desire, you need to keep asking the why question, not once, but 3 to 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to communicate to the innovators, their parents, and their teachers, right? And we kept on asking the why question to each one of these people, to a set of these people. Why do you innovate? I innovate because I love it. But why do you love it? I love it because of this. But
Mm-hmm.
why is that?
Mm-hmm.
You come to a point where they don't have any more answers, and that's where you have reached a core desire.
Mm-hmm.
So for parents, the core desire was simple: success of their children. It was very simple. I want my children to be successful, so I want them to, if this is an opportunity. For teachers, it's interesting. It was transcendence.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be remembered by the students because they know batches come, batches go, batches come, batches go.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, what really mattered was, I want to be transcendent. I want to be remembered by these children as having helped them in something that had a long lasting impact on their lives. For children, it was, for the youngsters, it was different. So when we approached the subject matter in these ways, one of the pieces of content we created, or pieces of communication we created, was, discussions reveal, we have been there, right? Ninth, 10th grade. What do we care about? Our looks. What are our insecurities? Uh, am I a little bit fat? Am I not running strong enough? Am I not looking cool enough? And
Mm-hmm.
so on.
Mm-hmm.
And so we created a piece of communication that started by addressing these things. Do you think you're not beautiful enough? Do you think you're not smart enough? But did you know that Marie Curie was beautiful? Or did you know that
Mm-hmm.
Einstein was a smart person in his space? You don't. All you know is their legacy. And their legacy was their innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, when we started the communication from in our agency in the last 3.5 years, that piece of content is the most successful one that we have ever produced. So long answer to a core principle, which is the why. And the
Mm-hmm.
why, keep on asking it until you reach the core desire. And once you reach a core desire, then you can address it. Then you can
Mm-hmm.
address it, and then you can, if that core desire is built on pleasing others, then you can address that and change behavior. If that core desire is self fulfillment, then you can address that and reinforce it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't get there, then you people swipe by. They will just swipe by. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks for sharing that story. I think it's really important because you've captured a lot of, like, the core desire piece is very important because most of the time people don't know that. I mean, they don't
Yes,
make that
yes, true,
connection. They don't make that
true.
connection. They just tell you what they want or what they need, but they don't know where that ask is coming from until you
Very true.
dig deeper, right? So
Very
and
true.
that's something I learned as well through business school, was asking over and over and over again, until you know what the person wants, like what their
Hmm.
desire is, because then you can give them a product or a solution that actually appeals to their core desire rather than their initial request.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. The subconscious is more powerful than the conscious,
Hmm.
and yet so much more. It's like the Bermuda Triangle.
Yes.
Subconscious. You need to
Yeah.
get into it.
Yeah, no, thanks. I guess, I mean, trying to kind of pivoting out from uh, like the why, but getting into being able to express ourselves, or communicating our needs. I think that's very relevant in business as well and stuff you're doing, but also in the current world we're living in, where mental health has become a huge, huge issue, especially with this pandemic. And people are struggling, and we don't know the true nature of the issues that are going to come out once, some at some point the world's going to stabilize, and then we'll really see everything come out from that. But from a communication perspective, like, what are things people can do or say to be able to express themselves or be heard?
Man, this is a very tough question. Yeah, honestly, I've been thinking about it myself for some time. I made a video on privilege, our
Hmm.
privilege some time ago, that reminds me of that while there are so many people struggling in so many unimaginable ways, like
Hmm.
not being able to simply put food on the table, uh, for them, the struggle is so much greater than our struggle. And my struggle was rent and talk to the landlord and reduce rent and so on. Anyways, I'm divulging. So to answer the question, or to try to answer the question, what can people say, do to be able to express themselves? The pressures, I believe, of the society and societal norms are so great, man, that I think it will take more time for people to be able to openly express themselves,
Mm-hmm.
because still today I think mental health is still stigmatized.
Mm-hmm.
Still it is stigmatized, and I think our generation, our schooling, the way we came out of school getting slaps and getting beaten, uh, th- this generation is, I don't know if it is mentally more tough because we went through those times, or we learn to just succumb our emotions so well that we are used to it and it comes naturally to us,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. But I believe our generation, people my age, our age, and people older than us, I think they still don't get mental health. I mean, it's become a big topic, and
Mm-hmm.
it's, alhamdulillah, finally it has become getting accepted more. But I think that the path is still uh, not smooth enough for
Mm-hmm.
people to come out. If you were to express your mental health issues in an office environment, how many offices or how many organizations would support you? How many
Mm-hmm.
organizations would say you need a break, go take a break, relax, go to a health practitioner, get treated? How many would? And
Mm-hmm.
we live in a corporate, in a world driven on aggressive corporate values, and
Mm-hmm.
so profitability comes before the human mental health, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. And so I think, man, it's difficult for people. It will remain to be difficult. uh, what do you need? You need courage to be able to come out
Yeah.
and talk about your mental health issue. But the obstacle you have to finding that courage and expressing, I think they're still very large. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the fear of rejection, the fear of losing your job, man, simply, if you and losing a livelihood is too great. And
Mm-hmm.
we are in a world where if you don't have a job, especially in a country like this or our country, from Pakistan, what do you do, man? You die of hunger if
Yeah.
you and you starve. There's no system that would support you if you didn't have a job.
Yeah.
So for the majority of the world today, I think it's still a problem, and it will continue to be. The only way people have is to be courageous and come out. But that would really mean fully believe that, for me, I mean, I come back to my perspective. Maybe it's not that common, but fully believe I have to do this, and the rest be with God.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, then it's very, very, very tough, I think. So perhaps the right way to approach it is to build, like contribute to building the momentum towards acceptance of mental health. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what's required first, for maybe another decade or so before things would go,
Yeah.
hopefully lesser. But until our generation doesn't, all of us don't get it, the next generation, and people younger than us, they will have a more difficult time. So i
Mm-hmm.
i think things are on the change. They are far more different than from our parents generation. I think the acceptance of mental health is getting absorbed in the society, in communities. But I think there's still ways to go. I have people telling me, and what, these softies, mental
Mm-hmm.
health people are labeled.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally, that's been my experience living here in Pakistan, talking to people, and I think the way is still far, a bit far.
Yeah, and I think part of the systemic issue is cultural too. I mean, in the Western world, it is a bit more accepted. The narrative's changed. I mean, it's still not where it needs to be.
Mm.
At work and in corporate companies, they're starting to talk about it. I don't know if it's fully embraced, but when I look at the culture in the East, it's somewhat lagging, right? In terms of mental health, like it's still ridiculed. Like even like, when you talk about it with our colleague or like the guys we went to school with, it's ridiculed.
Mm. Mm.
And we're all the same age, we're all kind of
Yeah.
educated the same way. And it's unfortunate that the narrative hasn't changed. And like you said, people are looked upon as being weak or softies when they do express their struggles, and that's unfortunate. I guess on that topic, like how is the Middle East treating like mental health? Like are there counselors there? Like is it readily accessible for people and stuff like that? Because we typically don't hear about it out here.
Hmm. Uh, the Middle East, the country. I mean, I'm talking about the UAE. Honestly,
Yeah,
I don't really know about the rest of
yeah.
the Middle Eastern countries. UAE as a country and their leadership do believe that do accept mental health as
Hmm.
an issue,
Hmm.
and they are taking steps to counter it. I myself have a client, the Department of Community Development. One of their core agendas is mental health,
Hmm.
and I help them create some content about mental health and for people to tackle it. However, um, after all, it is a country like all countries driven by corporate organizations predominantly,
Hmm.
and so the pace is not that great. And I believe, like the rest of our, like the Eastern countries, the subcontinent here also, it will take time
Hmm.
because our cultural values are very similar. Cultural values are similar, like they are not dramatically different.
Hmm.
uh, Courage is perceived in the same ways, and we just said softies. Those people who actually come out, man, they are committing an act of bravery. Who, as we all know, I mean, this is the true act of bravery, to come out and say, yes, I have this issue
Hmm.
to the world. This is an act of bravery, but they're labeled. So I because the country is governed by the law and order situation of this country is amazing. That's why I think people are not openly ridiculed as much, or you won't see people attacking others on social media the way they would in the rest of the world.
Hmm.
However, I think culturally the country still has a long way to go, and it's a hotbed of cultural clashes. This place, there are more than 100 nationalities living over here,
Hmm.
and so while those coming from the Western world, or those fortunate enough to have had exposure to mental health illnesses and their repercussions, are part of a community who are spreading the word, who are talking about it, who fight for the cause. But the majority is still, I think, getting there. The majority
Hmm.
is still getting there. The good thing is that the government actively, consciously is tackling it,
Hmm.
so that helps it become, get on the radar of people.
Yeah.
When a government organization is putting up a post on Facebook or Instagram and spreading it out to millions of people with ad budget and
Hmm.
talking about mental health, it gets attention, and
Yeah.
so a conversation starts, as a result. So there are good things definitely over here, but I think the human being is just a very difficult form of animal, and changing our behavior, changing our perception takes time.
Hmm.
uh, Really, man, changing people's points of views and their subjective angles on how they approach things is very, very difficult to change.
For
I'm in
sure.
communication, and I know that it's very difficult to change opinions. It's so difficult to let people, to make people stop using plastic bags, or
Yeah.
stop or using less tissue paper when you don't need it, you know. And so, talk about mental health, man. It's a mental shift that is required.
Yeah.
So it will take some time, I think. I think the next generation, the upcoming generation, is far better equipped than ours for dealing with it, because they're growing with this awareness.
Yeah.
And so when they are in the seats that we are in right now, it will change. But it's our job to help them, pave the way for them.
Absolutely. I think that's an important thing you touch on, because you look at our kids growing up, the best thing we can do for them is nurturing that topic, so making it normal to talk about mental health, because you look at our generation, it wasn't normal to talk about it. In fact, people weren't even aware. You look at our parents' generation and before that,
No.
there was no awareness. So yeah,
Mm.
you're right. I mean, the shift is happening, and it's becoming more prominent, which is positive. I guess around the whole communication piece and being able to feel courageous enough to step up, I think one of the things that's helped me, at least, is building a community of like-minded people, right? So when you surround yourself with people who nurture the same values and encourage you to speak up and share your story or ask for help, I think it makes it easier. So I guess for listeners, it's, you know, if you feel like you're alone, or if you're too scared to talk about it, find people that are like-minded and reach out there. I mean, fortunately for us, we have access to so many people through social media and technology that you can easily get in touch with people that are like-minded, even if it's not in your own physical community. You can build a virtual community of people that you can reach out to. So I just want to highlight that. But I think, again, to your point, Talha, like it is finding that courage within us. And if we don't ask for help, then unfortunately we can't really get that help.
What you said, Furkan, right now is amazing. Actually, like very, very crucial, man. But like having, finding the right community, and they are available
Mm-hmm.
online. Just go on Facebook, do a simple search, and you'll find people who would be willing to talk to you. And uh, something as simple as anxiety on a daily basis, or very frequently, even in our corporate lives, even in our office lives, we experience it, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
form of a mental health uh, issue. If it's
Yes.
not, if it becomes a problem, then you can term it as an illness. But we all face it. I have been going through something like that very recently,
Mm-hmm.
and I just made me realize, I wasn't able to sleep that night when I was going through all. I'm now 37, a group account director, all of these fancy things, and yet I wasn't able to sleep at night. That night when I was having trouble at work, and I was really disturbed to the point that my wife told me, "Man, relax, it's okay, it's okay."
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it's real. It's real. It has to be accepted. Our parents' generation is so right. I feel people from our part of the world, Pakistan. I don't know about the rest of the world. People in our part of the world, from our city, from our the gang that we grew up with, for them to think like that is really, it's not, maybe not miraculous, maybe a big word, but it's really different
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, I think uh, especially for boys,
Mm-hmm.
being tough is a condition
Mm-hmm.
of being a male, right?
Mm-hmm.
In our communities, in our countries, uh, that's what being a boy is all about. Don't cry because you're a boy.
Mm-hmm.
So when you grow up in a culture like that, and with values like that, it's so difficult to break out of them. It really takes thinking, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, above everything else, and contemplation, and looking at things, and accepting that I might be wrong here, and
Mm-hmm.
like opening up your mind to things. So yes, very important point that you can find. We should be able to find communities. This is worth creating a piece of content around and spreading the word.
Mm-hmm.
That look for communities. It's a very simple thing anybody can do that will really help people. Just being able to talk to somebody and run your thoughts by
Yep.
and get some feedback helps.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, even in the, the time frame I've been working in the space, I've been able to connect with such amazing people through social media who share the same beliefs and values around mental health. And, it's just being able to collaborate with these people has been amazing, because we're all working together to spread the same message, in our own countries and communities, and trying to normalize it. And I think you're right, especially for men. Whether and I, I've had the luxury of being able to grow up in the Western world and in the Eastern world, and it's the
Mm.
same. The
Mm.
this the prerequisite of being a male is the same. Like, you're not
Mm.
encouraged to talk about your feelings. You're not, you're shamed for crying, for being emotional, for being sensitive. And part of the work I'm doing is trying to change that narrative and making it more acceptable, because for years, uh men just kind of bottle things up and pretend to keep it together, meanwhile they're struggling, right? So yeah, I think by having these conversations, we're definitely shifting that mindset of people as well, and
Very true.
trying to make it normal.
And what is the way out for men? In societies, men, what do they do? Either they go into crime or they commit suicide. I mean, they go to the extremes,
Hmm.
like they just fall out of the grid.
Yeah.
and and so it's so crucial, man, so crucial to talk about this, I think, and inshallah spread the message
Yeah.
and get more people involved. Like I said a bit earlier, I think the best thing, our best contribution right now would be to add to the momentum and add to the spreading of this word, and make it normal to talk
Hmm.
about it. Not eventually it should we should inshallah we come to a point where it's like it's a universal truth like gravity,
Yeah.
and you don't need to talk about it. You
Yeah,
just accept it and you deal with it,
for
and you deal
sure.
with it. Hopefully that day will come, but until then, everyone's job to contribute to the cause.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, I want to thank you again for coming on here, sharing your own story, and sharing a lot of valuable information around communication. I guess for listeners who want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to find you on social media and stuff like that?
My Instagram, instagram.com/Talha Imtiaz. That's a good way to get to me. LinkedIn is the predominant platform that I am on.
Mhm.
Is it possible to share that link with your audiences in
Yeah.
the bio or something? I'll share it with you. But you can basically you LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever. Not Facebook. I don't use it that much. But LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Talha Imtiaz. If you write that, you'll find me.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely tag you when I post this podcast and stuff. So yeah, again, I want to thank you and super grateful for you to come here and take the time and have this conversation.
And I've been delighted because I've caught up with you after a long time, and I'm really, really happy what you're doing, mashallah. And I'm with you, inshallah. If you need my help anywhere, anytime, I am one of the people who want to contribute to the cause. So
Okay.
inshallah, we can do this.
Yeah,
Inshallah.
no, I appreciate that. Well, that's the end of the episode. Thank you again for tuning in and showing your support. Until next week.